Boa noite a todos. Sou o Marcos Quintela, diretor do Centro de Estudos FGV Transportes. Estou aqui para moderar este webinário intitulado Tendências do setor portuário para o cenário pós-Covid-19. Antes de iniciar, cabe dizer que o público que nos assiste é brasileiro, em sua maioria, mas um de nossos palestrantes é americano e não fala português. Farei a apresentação na maior parte do tempo em português, mas às vezes farei algumas colocações em inglês para os nossos convidados para o nosso convidado se situar, e as perguntas dirigidas a ele serão em inglês. Mr. Soroka, the audience is mostly Brazilian, and my moderation will be in Portuguese. But I will sometimes speak in English so that you can understand what is going on. But the questions addressed to you will be in English, okay?
Fantastic.
Okay. I am Marcos Quintela, okay, Director of Study Center belonging to Getúlio Vargas Foundation, FGV Transportation. Este webinário é organizado pela FGV In Company, liderada pelo professor João Lins, com apoio do professor Márcio Komerauer, da FGV, em parceria com o FGV Transportes, liderado por mim, Marcos Quintela, juntamente com o Consulado Geral dos Estados Unidos da América, representado pelo Genar Buriti, participação com a Fabiana Rios também, com a Câmara de Comércio Americano, Amcham, e com apoio institucional da Associação Brasileira da Infraestrutura e Indústrias de Base, a Abdib. Inicialmente, queria agradecer mais uma vez o convite feito a mim pela FGV In Company e pelo Consulado Geral dos Estados Unidos e pela Amcham para moderar este webinário. Obrigado, é uma honra estar aqui mais uma vez, já é o terceiro webinar dessa série de 5 que nós faremos aí até o final do mês, né? I thank the presence of our two panelists, Mr. Gene Soroka, Executive Director of the Port of Los Angeles, Antônio Carlos Amado, representante de marketing e vendas do Porto de Virgínia, Norfolk. Agradeço também a presença de nossos 3 debaters, Duna Uribe, diretora comercial de PECEM, Ricardo Arten, CEO da Brasil Terminal Portuário, BTP, e conselheiro titular da Associação Brasileira de Terminais de Containers, Abratec. John Coutinho, presidente da Portal Commerce and Logistics. Não posso deixar de agradecer as equipes da FGV e a Amcham, que deram todo o suporte necessário para a realização deste evento, a nossa diretoria de comunicação e marketing da FGV, a DICOM, e aos nossos parceiros de mídia, a agência Infra, a revista Plurale e a revista Portos e Navios. As manifestações expressas por integrantes dos quadros da FGV e por convidados que participam dos eventos e transmissões online representam exclusivamente as opiniões dos seus autores e não necessariamente a posição institucional da FGV. Reiteramos também que todos aqui presentes concordaram em participar deste evento de forma espontânea e, com isso, autorizam o uso de sua imagem para esta transmissão, que ficará disponível posteriormente nos canais oficiais da FGV. A dinâmica do webinar: cada palestrante terá 10 minutos para suas considerações iniciais sobre o tema central. Em seguida, abrirei o debate. Cada debatedor terá 3 minutos para seus comentários e sua pergunta ao palestrante de sua escolha. E o palestrante escolhido terá 2 minutos para responder. Dessa forma, faremos várias rodadas de perguntas até o final do webinário, que deverá ser encerrado por volta das 19h20. Mr. Soroka is here or not? No. Já está aí, já? Acho que não estou vendo aqui na tela. Então, vou dar a palavra. Vamos começar. Antônio Carlos Amado, você pode começar a fazer a gentileza de fazer a sua primeira palestra, por favor? Acho que o Mr. Soroka...
O Gene está... Eu estou vendo o Gene aqui.
Está vendo? Porque eu estou agora com... Eu estou com o
celular. Eu estou vendo ele. Gene is here.
Ok. Tá. Então, vou passar para ele o script. Mr. Soroka, the script of our webinar will be like this. Each panelist will have 10 minutes for their initial considerations about the central theme. Then I will open the debate. Each debater will have 3 minutes for his comments and his questions to the panelists of his choice. The chosen panelists will have 2 minutes to respond. Therefore, we will make several rounds of questions until the end of the webinar, which will close about 7:20 p.m. Okay? So, okay. Now, I give the floor to Mr. Gini Soroka. Please, welcome. Thank you for your presence.
Great. Thanks, Marcus. And good day to everyone, and good evening to all of our Brazilian attendees.
Okay.
My name is Gene Soroka. I am the Executive Director here at the Port of Los Angeles. And also at the same time, I am the City of Los Angeles Chief Logistics Officer. And I'll talk a little bit about that job in a moment. It truly is a pleasure to be with you all here today and this evening to share a few updates and highlight some of the trends that we are seeing amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. We okay? Could you put up the presentation for me at this time? Perfect, thank you. Here at the Port of Los Angeles, we have been open every day since the emergency orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic started back in March. We highlighted all the critical work that needed to be done, who needed to be on the job, and the idea of a workforce that could be in a good area to protect health and safety. We've also been providing industrial personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies to our port partners, our terminal operators, including our longshore dock workers, the trucking community, and even our farmers here in the state of California. Also back in March, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti nominated me to be the Chief Logistics Officer for the City of Los Angeles. And the plan at that time was to help get this personal protective equipment to our frontline medical workers who needed it so much to care for our COVID-19 patients. So very quickly, Logistics Victory Los Angeles was born. And we put together 24 volunteers here at the Port of Los Angeles and some other staff to help me look at the marketplace and see what we can do. And to this point in time, we have distributed more than 2.7 million units of personal protective equipment to 36 hospitals and more than 100 skilled nursing facilities in and around Los Angeles. We've also had the ability to create direct manufacturer relationships, including with the iconic Honeywell Corporation, where we purchased 24 million N95 masks. And all of this work, all of these products are being driven out to the hospitals and the care facilities at cost. There is no profit, there is no markup for these hospitals and facilities. We also had the opportunity to create a new data system to help us follow the demand of these products all the way through to delivery. And we call it the Medical Optimizer. And it's built off of our Port Optimizer system that I'll also share with you in a moment. On the next slide, you'll see what we have been faced with over the last 2.5 years. We've had two real issues that have impacted our supply chain: the ongoing trade tensions between the United States and China, and the COVID-19 pandemic, which really shut down the American economy. We've seen disruption in the flow of goods through the supply chain, manufacturing shifts from China to Southeast and South Asia, moving cargo now via the Suez Canal to the US East and Gulf Coast. As China began to come back to work and their output got stronger, we started to get more and more into the closure of the American economy due to the emergency orders. So we never really were in sync throughout this pandemic. But all of that being said, the cargo volume through the Port of Los Angeles today is about 85 to 90% of normal. And given that so many people are out of work and so many others are suffering through this terrible illness, I'll take that for right now to keep those critical goods flowing throughout our trade lanes. And for us here locally, lower cargo volume means fewer jobs. So we have to be very mindful of all we can do in the trade arena to build up our business. Year to date through the month of August, our business here at the Port of Los Angeles is down about 12%. And including our neighbor in San Pedro Bay, we're down about 7% through the United States' largest trade gateway. In this specific chart, we begin to see in 2019 the impact of the trade tensions, where we saw our first drop in cargo volume in 4 years. And now, coupled with COVID-19 and the economic impact it's had, our outlook for the balance of this year is that we'll probably see a 10% decline in container cargo. In our other sectors of business, you'll also notice that we have taken a lot of impact in each one of these areas. Automobile sales in the United States will roll back to Great Recession levels of about 12 million passenger vehicles. Both scrap metal and steel have been impacted by tariffs. Petroleum is down mainly because we are not traveling. Our airport at LAX at its lowest was down by 97%. And many of us here in the United States, like Brazil, have been working from home for some time. So we're not putting petrol in our cars or using a lot of transportation methods. Cruise, like much of the world today, has been closed since March. There is a sign that we may see an opening in small areas, but that is yet to be determined. And for us, every cruise vessel called in Los Angeles means about $1 million in spending to our local businesses, all within about a 2-mile radius of the port. So that's very important to our local folks here in this port community. And the fruit business that primarily comes from the west coast of Latin America moved through its season without any problems, and now we're looking forward to the next harvest toward the end of November and beginning of December. Brazil in particular is our 8th largest Latin American trading partner. We do a little bit more than $1 billion worth of total business, as an example, in 2019, mostly on Brazil exports to the United States, including furniture, auto parts, ceramic, and mosaic tiles, just to name a few. Exports are a little bit smaller, mainly in the areas of perishable goods, vegetables, electronic products, and aluminum blocks. On the non-containerized side of our business, we at the Port of Los Angeles imported more than 326,000 tons of liquid bulk. Ethyl alcohol that goes into our petrol to make that California blend for our automobiles. Petroleum fuel, also a big part of our business with Brazil. And the import of these liquid bulk products was a considerable increase versus 2018. On the steel side of the business, we have a long-standing relationship with Brazil on this all-important import product for the Port of Los Angeles. Pasha, one of our great break bulk terminals, receives the steel in slab form from Brazil. These slabs are transported by short-haul rail to California steel industry in Fontana, California, which is about 60 miles to the east of our port. CSI is a steel mill that reheats the slabs and they're then rolled into coils. CSI is a joint venture with Companhia Vale of Brazil and Kawasaki Steel of Japan. The steel imports from Brazil grew dramatically from 2018 into the year 2019. Growth of nearly 60% to more than 831,000 metric tons. And Brazil is the port's largest source of steel in 2019, followed in the distance by South Korea, Vietnam, and others. Looking towards our future at the Port of Los Angeles as we continue to try to find our way through the COVID-19 pandemic, it's my belief that we need to reinvent ourselves. We will have a permanent loss of about 10 to 15% of our imports due to the trade policies. So we must redirect our efforts and focus more on exports, specifically in the areas of agriculture and forestry products, manufacturing, and our automotive business. I believe if we have a better balance of trade, we can lower our cost to serve and make Los Angeles a more attractive trade gateway for our logistics decision makers. And if we can do all of that, I believe we can bring our longshore, truckers, logistics, and rail partner employees back on the job much quicker than anticipated. And to get all this done, I have called for a nationwide port community system, one that has standards of information transmission and sharing, and an open digital architecture so anyone can join, but with specific business rules to make sure that we are abiding by what is correct and a rules-based method of transferring information. For the first time, I've also put together a West Coast coalition of business interests to answer the question of port competitiveness here in the United States, what we need to do better to be that gateway of choice. And this group includes our longshoremen up and down the West Coast, our railroads, our employers association, and many others who contribute to our supply chain. And with all of this, as I mentioned, we're going to focus heavily on agriculture and manufacturing to help make up for some of the losses, but also to get people back onto their jobs faster by trying to grow our international business and reestablish those great relationships that we've had with our trading partners. We'll also, because of our strong financial policies, continue to invest through this economic cycle. We're spending about $367 million in infrastructure projects that account for nearly 3,000 construction jobs on an annual basis. We want to keep those good, hardworking people on the job as well. And one of our signature developments is an effort on workforce training and development. We want to build a center where people can come to learn their skills and have an idea as to what type of jobs they could earn in this great supply chain and global trading business. And with all of this, if we're right and we plan well, more cargo will mean more jobs for us in the trade. For our future between the United States and Brazil, and specifically here in Los Angeles, we look to strengthen trade and policy that will not only help us grow our businesses, but help create more jobs. And it's our understanding that trade talks between the United States and Brazil are scheduled for December of this year, and we will strongly advocate that ability to grow our business together. We also want to share best practices on health and safety with our workforces. And we have so much to learn. We're willing to share information. This is an area of consideration we would really like to expand upon. And finally, we believe there are broader policy advancements on digital infrastructure. And if we're going to be more and more reliant on data sharing, we need to protect that data through strong cybersecurity practices. I mentioned briefly the Port Optimizer, which currently is our nation's only port community system, co-created by Wabtec, General Electric Transportation, and the Port of Los Angeles. It's a visibility platform that allows for us to see cargo coming our way to Los Angeles at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, so we can plan for the movement of our trucks and rail and our staffing needs right here on the docks. A mode of this particular system is called the signal, and where it gives aggregated data to the marketplace 3 weeks in advance. So people like our partners in the port business will know how much cargo is coming, when they should be prepared, and what mode the cargo will move through, either rail or truck. The signal is meant to really encourage planning and advance notification so our private sector and public area companies can get to work much quicker and improve the efficiencies of our port complex. And with that, Marcus, I'll turn it back to you and look forward to the discussion here this evening.
Ok. Thank you, Mr. Soroka. Sua vez, Antônio Carlos Amado, por favor.
Perfect. I will start in English to follow Jeannie's presentation, and any questions we can make in Portuguese or in English. I will share my screen now. Hope it's okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for FGV, FGV Transportes, American Consulate, Amcham, and Abdib. And my name is Antonio Carlos Amado. I work for the Virginia since 2001, right after September 11th. And so I have an agenda. It's a COVID-19 response to Brazilian market. Brazilian market, global reach, terminal overview, and expansions. First of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about the Port of Virginia, because we have the Virginia Port Authority is a state agency, state-owned, the Virginia Port Authority, and so we belong to Secretary of Transportation. And also by operating agreement, we have two companies, Virginia International Terminals, LLC, and Hampton Roads Chassis Pool, which Virginia International Terminals is the company which operates, manage, and all terminals that we have. We have marine terminals, dry port, and river port. And Hampton Roads Chassis Pool is the company belongs to also by VIT, Virginia International Terminals, which manage, control, and maintain all chassis around all terminals belongs to the Port of Virginia. And that's you can see is a state port, but managed operated by the two private companies, Virginia International Terminals, which own the manage and operate everything. Here we have some Brazilian shippers to the Port of Virginia. We have a big hub from the Brazilian product via Virginia. And so we have to pay all auto parts, furniture, coffee, tobacco, lumbers, and so machinery, stones. It's a quite significant product we have in Virginia, receiving from Brazil. And I would say next slide about COVID-19. We respond mature, organized, and quick to the situation. We keep the port open as usual, but keeping the workforce safe and keep the workforce essential, and most of the office people and working telework. We reduce exposure, biometric screening, temperature screening, social distance, personal protective equipment, gate hours adjusted. It means we reduce the gate hours and also we close during the weekend, we shut down. But now it's going back, okay? All employees were kept, no layoff, nothing. We isolated one berth to control vessel and vessel crew, checking and everything to avoid contamination. For instance, Virginia has 8.6 million population. We have for 140,000 cases and 11,000 hospitalization and unfortunately 3,000 deaths. And so we prioritize the cargos, essential cargos, emergency cargos, medication, and COVID testing. And so we prepare, implement a cross-divisional team daily basis to control, monitor, and post daily reports through our website. And the bottom line, also we invest 5.7 million in this COVID situation. So these are only some issues that I highlight. Let's see. And also we have a global reach. Global reach, we are in Virginia, located in the central East Coast. We have 26 weekly service connected to 80 ports around the world. South America, we have 2 services. Asia, we have 10, Caribbean 1, Europe 6, India 2. Brazilian market is very important to Virginia. We have on a market share, East Coast, 13%. We are the 3rd port on East Coast in terms of volume. We handle last fiscal year 2020, 2.75 TEUs, 6% fewer last fiscal year because tariff battle with China is a common subject between East and West Coast, and so it's great. We have also quota, steel quota, and Brazilian market represent to Virginia around trade lane, both in and out, between 90 100,000 TEUs annually. This is a rail network starting from Virginia. We can reach most of the Midwest. We can cover 2/3 of population on the East Coast, 75% of the population. We have Norfolk Southern as one of the major railroad and CSX. Both, they have around combined 24,000 kilometer rail track from Virginia. So we can reach Detroit, Midwest, Chicago, Columbus. It's a great market. The international mix means, and talking about rail and truck, I say that international rail means that rail, we have 34% of volume, truck, 60% of cargo handling, and barge, 3%. All double deck from both railroads. And also we have, both railroad has also on dock service at the Port of Virginia. And as I said before, we have 6 terminals. We have 6 terminals, means 4 marine terminals. We have NIT, Norfolk International Terminals. We have VIG, Virginia International Gateway, Marine Terminals. We have RMT, is a Richmond Marine Terminals, a river port. We have also VIP, is a Virginia Inland Port. We can also call it is a dry port. Daily served by Norfolk Southern by rail from the port daily. Also, we have PMT, is a Portsmouth Marine Terminal, and Newport News Marine Terminal. PMT is purely now we are shifting to multi-use terminal. We can move, for example, ro-ro, break bulk, protect cargo, everything, no container. And Newport News Marine Terminal, we handle ro-ro, break bulk, and also we have an CSX rail on dock as well. And so we, under all 6 terminals, are under responsibility of Port of Virginia, Virginia Port Authority, Virginia International Operation, and all chassis around all 6 terminals, our company, HRCP2. All company, everything is under the Port of Virginia. The Port Authority, the Virginia Port Authority is the authority, the Port Authority to control everything. But all these company we have a branding called Port of Virginia. So when you talk about Port of Virginia, we can refer to all 6 terminals under umbrella, Virginia Port Authority umbrella. This is a better view. We can have the better view. You can see the location of each terminal. I would say the Newport News, right, left hand, and top, Newport News Marine Terminal. We can see to the right, Norfolk International Terminals, which is South America service, okay, over there. We can also see the Virginia International Gateway, is a V, is a private owned terminal, but leased by us, by the Virginia International Terminals, because we have an operational agreement 20 years, and so it's a private terminal, but operated by the International Virginia Terminals. The 4th is Portsmouth Marine Terminal, PMT, is the one that I said is a multi-use terminal, is focused on now in different cargo. We have now a Danish company which lease area to make and storage wind products to make a wind farm in the coast of Virginia, in Virginia Beach. We have a big project. It's coming in the federal waters in Virginia Beach. It's a great project in Virginia and to the East Coast as well when it will get done. And the last one terminal I'd like to mention, you can see in the middle or between Newport News Square and Virginia International Gateway is the future Crane Island Marine Terminal. This is a future project. It's a long-term view project. It means a new terminal because we are dredging our channel. We are dredging to make the port, the channel deeper, wider, and safe for the ULCV, the new big vessels coming in. So all dredging material is going to be there because it will be the land for the future terminal that I explained at the end. And let's see. This is, I would say, that's the Virginia International Terminals. It's the private terminal, but leased by the Virginia International Terminals. I would say that we are very happy and satisfied to the last 5 or 6 years under the management of our CEO, John Heinhardt. We add more efficiency, more expansion, more productivity. In resulting, we got an investment of 750 million US in all terminals, VIG and NIG, 700 million US as investment. I will detail later. For now, for example, VIG, these terminals, we have 312 million US investment. We add capacity, We had wharf expansion. We had 4 new ship-to-shore cranes. We have 4 new straddle ship-to-shore cranes. Total, we have 16 ship-to-shore crane now. 16. We add 26 new RMG, rail-mounted gantry cranes. Total, in this year, we have 56 RMG. We also add new 4 truck lanes, and gates. And also we have 3 new semi-automated container truck in the yard. Also, we have additional 760 reefer plugs, total 1,220, and 7,000 meters of rail track to the right of this picture. It's a big project. That's the project that we have. This is a private owned leased by VIT. It's the newest one terminal in East Coast, semi-automated terminal. We can control all terminal by a room using the joystick. This one is a NIT. NIT is a Norfolk International Terminal. We had investment of 450 million US to add ship-to-shore cranes. We add capacity. We have 1.2 million TEUs more total, and TEUs more. Also, we received new 60 new RMG in this yard to make the automation and to make the port cargo fluid. And so we have we have a total wharf is 2,000 meters of wharf. Total TEUs means 2 million TEUs and almost 1 million FAUs. It's a big project. This project is completed. We'll be receiving 2 new ship-to-shore cranes end of December to be installed and in operation. In between this space, we can see the vessel to the right, and so we have 2 new ship-to-shore cranes coming to be installed here. So it's almost the last phase of this project, and so all investment between both terminals. 750 million US. This is a project also we are adding to information as a dredging the channel, the open sea channel, to reach all terminals we have. And so from the terminals to open sea, we have 18 miles. And so we are dredging, and there is an investment of 350 million US to make the channel wider and deeper. The reason is to accommodate ULCV vessels. We make this channel widening and deepening. We can move the vessels. 2 big vessels, mega vessels, can sail in both directions, bi-direction, when you have this situation. So it will be completed by 2024. 1 year before we expect. So it's a challenging, and so we are happy to have this project running, because the customers need to have customers need our structure to receive more cargo and to look for the future. This is project that I mentioned before, Crane Island, is a future plan to 2064. Is long-term project, but is in paper. Is planning. The dredge material is putting in the piece of land that I'm showing before. Let me go back here. This one, the old dredge material is putting here. And so it's a long-term project. We will add more 5 million TEUs. And so whole structure, all terminals total after this situation, we can complete this project. We have total capacity 9.6 million TEUs. But it's a long-term view. But the good thing that we plan in the future. We have a focus on the future volume and the growth and the situation and the customers' needs. We are prepared to receive more cargo globally. I think that's it, and I'm hoping I don't spoke too fast. And if any issues, I will close my presentation to open to some Q&A, if some.
Obrigado, Amado. E vamos abrir o debate. Né? Let's open the debate. Duna, por gentileza, faça seus comentários. Se quiser fazer português, fazer inglês, as perguntas, preferencialmente aí para o Mr. Siroka. Bem-vindo aí, obrigado mais uma vez aí pela presença.
Obrigada pelo convite, é um prazer estar aqui. Realmente as apresentações foram muito ricas e muito esclarecedoras sobre o que está acontecendo em ambos os pontos, tanto na resposta ao Covid quanto planos futuros. Eu fiquei com várias, queria fazer várias observações, queria ser a única debatedora aqui, mas em respeito aos meus colegas, eu vou me privar a fazer uma pergunta para cada palestrante. Mr. Jean, thank you for your very clear and very rich presentation. My name is Duna Uribe. I'm a commercial director of complex that support in the northeast of Brazil. And I was happy when you talked about the steel slabs, because we have a steel mill plant in our complex, in our industrial backyard, exporting 3 million tons of cargo. So nice to see that on your trade trend. And a question to you that I got curious was that you mentioned that a trend you're seeing is because of manufacturing shift. You see cargoes moving to East Coast rather than the traditional trade lanes of the West Coast. Can you share a little bit more information with us about that, please?
Sure, Duna, and nice to see you. What we've seen thus far is that manufacturing has shifted mainly because of the U.S. position on trade policy with China, away from that country to Southeast Asia and South Asia nations. When cargo has the opportunity to move from places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, it can just as easily go via the Suez Canal as it could over the west coast of the United States. And in many cases, those routes will be a little bit less expensive. And much has been made about the cost of running ports in the United States. That also adds to the cost structure that may be more enticing to the importers. So you've got geography and cost that are driving that momentum based on the trade policy that we see today.
Thank you for that.
Pode fazer depois essa?
Claro, sim.
Vamos fazer aquela rodada aqui. Ricardo, por favor.
Here we go. Não, desculpa, eu estava mudo aqui. Desculpa, estava procurando onde desmutar. Bom, primeiramente, muito obrigado, professor Marcos Quintela, pelo convite. É um prazer estar aqui de novo, né, junto à FGV Transportes. Para mim é um orgulho estar aqui participando e tentando contribuir um pouquinho com as nossas experiências aqui no setor portuário brasileiro e ainda mais junto dos nossos colegas que representam os portos americanos. Eu vou fazer igual também uma pergunta para cada um. Eu vou começar então com o Antônio, já que a Duna começou com Jean. A minha pergunta é em inglês ou em português? Marcos, por favor, me ajuda.
Feel free.
Ok, então eu vou mandar no inglês para a gente poder efetivamente fazer com que o Jean participe também das perguntas, ok? So I will turn to English now in order to Jean participate of the question and also the answer. So my question is going to Antonio at this moment. My first question is related to challenges that we have here in Brazil to become a hub port, right? Despite of the Pro-Brazil project, actually is a program that the government is doing here in Brazil, the federal government is doing in Brazil, and also the willingness of the government to boost the economy by attracting foreign investors to the logistics sector, we have still faced some challenges that undermine the natural vocation of Porto Santos of being a hub port. One of these factors is the dredging. We need to solve this problem as soon as possible in Santos to be able to receive larger vessels, right? But it is important to highlight that we are still striving to fill the gaps, right? The dredging could be easily solved with the privatization of the service, still under discussion, and most probably to be included in the privatization of Santos Port. One of the main initiatives that will allow Santos to become bigger, larger as a hub is the reorganization of the port area in the master plan, what we call the famous PDZ in Portuguese, right? Which is the development and zone plan of the Santos Port Authority. Just as a reference, the implementation of this plan will pave the way for the growth, since the capacity of the port will be able to increase 60%, around 60% until 2040. According to the Port Authority, Santos Port Authority, the part related to the containers will be, let's say, the largest capacity growth among the all cargos, 64 high, from 5.4 million TEUs to 8.7 million TEUs. Question, regarding to this master plan, what is your opinion? What is, in your opinion, should be the most relevant steps to Santos to become a hub in the region? How, and also, what can we learn from Virginia ports as they consolidate themselves as successful models of hub ports? So how can you help us in becoming a hub port here in Brazil, specifically in Santos, which is the most important port in South America? So
yes, clear. And well, thank you very much for the question. Good question, great question as well. And also, since when I got on board to the Virginia port, the Virginia International Port, since 2001, every year I was there, I saw change in the terminal. Every year we have almost 20 years, and so every year we have change. In the last 5 or 6 years, we got a huge investment by the management of John Heinhardt. We have a 750 million US to invest in the terminal, expanding new cranes, automatization. But of course, if you can do it, but if you not dredge the channel, because the ultra large carrier vessel is coming, is a reality, and so it doesn't make no sense, no dredging, no keep the channel deep, no keep the channel wider. And so otherwise we cannot handle more ships. We have space because we have we are different. We have a different model of business compared to Brazil. We in the Hampton Roads area, we don't compete between us. All terminals belong to one umbrella. It's the Virginia Port Authority, handled by the Virginia International Terminals and HRCP2. And so we all look for the future. We also look for the customer's needs. That we are investing. We invest, and we are investing every year to look forward to meet the customer needs, and also look for the next 10 years forward. So I would say investment is really important. Automatization, privatization, of course. We are not privatized, but we have the same situation. We have investment. We have the federal funding, state funding, investment, and so all terminals is moving, and so we have also a master plan, not for the next 10 years, but the next 40 years. It's a really important, and it's happening. You can see this, all dredge material put into the space that will turn the new Ford terminal. It's amazing. And so for me, a Brazilian, I've been in Virginia 20 years, and so it's crazy. It's always new projects. And so look forward and look to the future, look to the customer needs is the key answer for your question.
John, it's your turn. Please.
Obrigado, professor Marcos, estimados panelistas e panelistas. My question will be for Jean Soroka. Thank you very much for your participation. Brazil has embarked on notable digital transformation efforts, notably the port without paper, the 24-hour port, and the single window. Moreover, there are several initiatives for vessel traffic management and information systems. Port of Los Angeles is an international reference in digital transformation technologies with Port Optimizer and your cybersecurity programs. Do you see an opportunity to tropicalize or export Los Angeles's Port Optimizer and cybersecurity internationally? Can you see Brazil and US ports working together with regard to setting international standards for new technologies? If so, how?
Yes, and yes, John. And I think it starts with venues like this to promote trade, the replication of best practices, and a willingness to share because of that great friendship that has been developed by trade. But I will tell you this, John, we have much more to learn. So I'm sure from the business community, the port community, and academia in Brazil, we can take much back as well. So I'd like to formalize something as I had in my presentation to see what we could do to take those steps to start sharing ideas and what we could do to tropicalize that information in your great country.
Okay. It's okay, John? Duna, você queria fazer agora aquela pergunta para o Antônio Carlos?
Isso, exatamente. Okay, I guess I'll continue in English then, so that we can keep Jean involved in the discussion.
For sure, yes, for sure.
Antonio, very impressive the amount of investments you mentioned.
Yes.
Indeed, long-term forecasting, long-term planning is fundamental for ports. As you know, PESTEM has the participation of the Port of Rotterdam. Port of Rotterdam is today 30% shareholder of PESTEM Port because it saw its potential there. And in that way, it became international. You know, the Port Authority became international in other countries, which is still quite a novelty. So I actually have two questions, but please feel free to answer as you wish.
No problem.
On one hand, and maybe this goes to Jean as well, is where is this humongous investments coming from? You know, is this all publicly financed? Of course, there are also the terminals that are investing in the equipment. I understand those are private parties, but we're talking about big infrastructure, dredging, quay walls, etc., which I assume is public funding. And my more specific question to you, Antonio, is I am very interested in your offshore wind project. We are seeing a lot of projects coming up here in the northeast of Brazil in renewable energy, and specifically offshore wind is becoming very hot. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that project that you mentioned from the Danish company you mentioned.
Yes, well, Jeannie, start, or I will reply. First of all, the long-term view project forecasting is essential. So also, we, in the last 5 or 6 years, we received from federal fund and state fund, and also the revenue from the operation, VIT, we reinvest in the terminals. VIT is a company, it's a non-profit company. And so we don't make money. And so we pay the bills, we receive the money, and reinvest in the terminals, in the operation. The Virginia Port Authorities are on the land. So it's a state land, you know, except the VIG, which is a private terminal, but we lease them by 20 years by contract. And so we invest, and so we receive federal fund, state fund, and VIT fund when reinvested in the terminals. And so infrastructure, terminals, automatization. We had the last 5, 6 years we got 80 new RMG, new equipment to split in both terminals to make it semi-automated in the East Coast. We are prepared to the future. That's the key point, and that's the focus. So looking for the customer, looking for the future. And the last question that you said is about the wind. And so we have we lease the PMT that I said, that the multi-use terminal. We lease one area, a space area, to a Danish company, which is bringing project to Dominion Energy. Dominion Energy is making an offshore project on the federal waters on the Virginia Beach area inside the water. And so this project is to be completed in 2026. And so we have 200 wind farms offshore in Virginia. It's also will be helpful to the Virginia state as well and the all port area, but also to the all East Coast. It's a benchmark in the future. It's a pretty new project is starting, and so we are very happy to have this in our state and in our port. And we can share also information. So if you need it offline, we can also talk about this in details.
Thank you.
Então, na mesma ordem, vamos... Ricardo, o que você tem de... Eu estou com duas... Depois, dessa rodada, eu vou fazer aqui duas perguntas do público aqui, mas, Ricardo, por favor.
Okay, so before doing my next question, which is going to be to Jean, I would like to congratulate both of them for the good and also inspiring presentations. And the most important thing, to congratulate them in keeping the port running without any interruption. We, the port industry, are considering essential activity in Brazil. And I think it's the same in the US. So we handle millions of containers per year with food, medicine, equipment for hospitals, etc. And I'm really proud, indeed, to see our sister terminals in the US working hard and also helping the country to face this pandemic. So congratulations. My question to Jean is related to the potential United States federal plan to enable to recover the economy and also the expansion of the trade facilitation post-COVID. Here in Brazil, we are facing an important change of the mindset in terms of investments in infrastructure. The federal government is putting forward a program that is so-called Pro-Brazil. This program has two pillars that connects to the message of Brazilian flag, order and progress. In one hand, when it comes to order, it means that they are organizing a pro-business environment, which new reforms to enable private investments. On the other hand, we have the progress, and is to implement public politics and establish what we call PPTs, which is a partnership between public and private sector. Those are to attract foreign investments. The Brazilian Ministry of Infrastructure, for instance, are opening, and this is important to say, tenders for concessions in several ports in Brazil. In addition, they have also plans to promote the cabotage in Brazil and the initiative of privatization of Port of Santos, where BTP, our terminal, is located. Just for reference, Pro-Brazil has been pretty well seen in the market, since its main goal is to foster private investments in public assets, support the recovery of the whole country after the coronavirus crisis. Question: is there any specific recovery or development plan that the U.S. is preparing to launch in terms of infrastructure in the port industry? Any economic agenda to foster investments in the sector? Of course, to make it strong, the trade relations, is United States establishing initiatives to enabling and expanding trade relations with other countries after the pandemic crisis?
Well, Ricardo, those are all very good questions. And as you all know very well, I think some of those decisions will be made after November the 3rd, when we have our federal elections. And it appears that the current administration is focused on campaigning at this time. But a couple of areas that are of great importance to us. In Los Angeles, which is the largest port in the United States, 1 out of every 9 people go to work with a job related to this port. That's 1 million people in Southern California alone. and 3 million people nationwide. Jobs that focus on exports in the United States pay on average 17% more than other segments. And the unfortunate fact that 55 million Americans have applied for social benefits due to the pandemic, we need to try to get those people back to work to be productive. And while the federal government has no one nationwide plan, I think the ports in the United States, including Los Angeles, Norfolk, and so many others, understand their importance in the local community and what they can do to connect people around the world. So while individuals have their own views of trade, I think the United States will be resilient. It will remember its trading friends and partners. And as we recover one day, hopefully, from this pandemic, we will renew those friendships with even greater strength than we can remember. All of this includes how we interact not only on the goods that we trade, but as John pointed out, on some of the newer digital aged concepts. And if we are going to rely on data in the future, how we protect that data. And that only comes with open dialogue like this. So we've got some work to do here in the US over the next 5 weeks. And then I think we come out running. And it's with great people like the Brazilian trading partners we have that we want to elevate this relationship.
Okay. John.
Oh, I have a question for Antonio. Antonio, how has COVID affected your port's trade development practices and infrastructure investment? And in light of the pandemic, how can we generate more business between Brazil and the United States?
Well, John, thank you. Well, we have Brazil represent, I'd say, the trade lane at 9,000, 100,000 TEUs trade lane, export, import. The pandemic, of course, we had a big punch in the beginning of the year since we have China lockdown, and so we felt drop in volume in January, February, and also the rest of the world. Brazil also adds the situation in March and April was critical for us, but we also keep the contact with the customers. We find the way to be in touch with the key customers, not find a new customer at that moment, but keep the existing customer, keep them informed, open the communication channel to them, because we have a customer service, outstanding customer service, which provide them, no matter what happened, the port's running 24/7, and the customer needs information. So my role and during this pandemic situation was keep in touch with the major customers, all customers, as much as I can by internet, telework, WhatsApp, whatever. Find a way to keep them informed and aware what's going on in the terminal, in the operation. We have 2 servers. We have a lot of customers from Brazil and Argentina as well too, in Chile, whatever, but focus on Brazil. We keep them informed, duly aware, monitoring, almost in real time, working on the big data and also in PI information, and keep them informed and updated. And also, when the pandemic situation also allow us to make, for example, internal meetings. We can also make internal meetings by Zoom, or we use the MS Teams, Microsoft. And so we can have a weekly meeting or twice a week meeting with the operation, sales, marketing, IT, customer service, and updating everybody at the same time. Every different country have offices in Seoul, Europe, in Asia, and so everyone are updated at the same time. And so also sending the same message: customers, focus on the customers and the result, because customers pays our bills. And so that's it we have to do. And so this information that we have, this kind of meeting is strange, the new normal for us, especially for everybody. But I think this kind of meetings will stay forever, because save money and keep everybody posted and informed in real time at the same moment. I think I don't know if I answered your question, but if you any other question, you can send to me. Thank you.
Ok. Antônio Carlos, você tinha me falado antes sobre o porto de Virgínia ser estatal, não é isso?
Isso.
E aí surgiram aqui mais de uma pergunta
Uhum.
exatamente sobre isso aqui. Pergunta aqui perguntando se os terminais são privados, mas são de propriedade de empresas privadas, de companhias privadas. E serve também para o... Se você quiser responder, o Mr. Soroka, a pergunta também está direcionada para ele. Ele pergunta: the terminals are private, owned by private companies, or are the different terminals private owned? Então, as duas servem para os dois.
Who starts first? Okay, I start first. And so, in our case, the Virginia Port Authority, this is Autoridade Portuária da Virgínia, looks like Santos, you know. Virginia Port Authority owns the land, all lands, all, except one, VIG, it's a private, it's a former APM Maersk terminal. They built it in 2007, 2008 as a terminal, new terminal, brand new. They operated, but from that time on, they they sold the terminal to the private fund equity in London. And so this private equity fund, we leased this terminal from the private equity fund now. And so we operate the terminal by ourselves. Of course, we have some responsibility, but everything is under Virginia Port Authority umbrella. All terminals, river port, inland port, dry port, all for marine terminals. All we handle, manage, sell, operate, everything is different from different other terminals in East Coast as well. We can competition, but also in specific to Virginia, we own everything, we manage everything in terms of cargo, volume, steamship lines, and customers. And so we under an umbrella. And so I am an arm in South America. So I am Virginia arm in South America, but we have an arm in all over the world, globally speaking. I mean.
Okay. Mr. Soroka, if you wanted to answer, please.
Sure. Part of that question was in Portuguese, but I'll give my best shot. Here at the Port of Los Angeles, we look to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for definitioning, and they've identified three types of ports. Landlord ports, like we have traditionally been known as, where we lease our property out to the private sector companies. Operating ports, which many are known as, especially along the east and Gulf Coast of the United States. And then a hybrid port concept, one who does a little bit of both and takes a more active role. And while I'll leave the definitioning to others, we have tried to put together a high-performance team of industry people that have an understanding of what it takes to get the job done for the ecosystem of this supply chain. And so we've looked a little bit more as to how we take care of our business. We call it supply chain optimization. What we've done in the area of digitization, our environmental strategy of being a market maker to help companies realize that they will have good customers when it comes to cleaner technologies, and the ability to accelerate the development and commercial accessibility of these new machines. And finally, the way we go to market. So it's been interesting. We have found that the private sector companies, those who are very traditional in our business, have been long-standing partners with our port. We've also seen private equity, not only in the United States, but global equity partners come and join us as well. And we have no less than 6 private equity firms who have very high levels of investment here in our port. Traditionally, we have been responsible for the development of what we call in our business infrastructure. That's at grade and below work, the engineering and design, the construction, the maintenance. And our private sector customers are typically responsible for the ground up, the machinery, the software, the technology, and the buildings and apparatus to move cargo. Today, we have nearly 2,100 machines that move cargo here at the port. We have 27 terminals and 270 berths, nearly 88 shoreside cranes. So this partnership across the ecosystem is very important. The ability to raise capital, most of which is through our revenue. We have no reliance on public monies nor tax dollars here in the United States. It's the money we earn from growing this port's business that is reinvested directly into the port. We maintain a AA+ bond rating in the United States, highest level for a municipal infrastructure project like ours. And the ability to borrow money at many times, the return on investment has also been a key to accelerating development on the bricks and mortar. But where I see the future really is in digitization, that for millicents on the dollar and much quicker authorization, this supply chain optimization and efficiency gain that we find through information sharing, predictive and prescriptive analytics, and software that will allow us to move cargo much more smoothly can be the accelerator that we require. Again, one of the interesting facts about this port, out of just about every one of them, is that we move cargo to and from each of our nation's 435 congressional districts. That makes it truly a conversation of national significance to gain interest, the knowledge base, and the finances to be able to drive this international trade business.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you. Let's do the last round of questions. Please, Miss Ribi. Duna, sorry.
Yes. I think related to what Jean just spoke, I'm wondering the role of innovation. And as linking to your presentation, you spoke about cargo reducing, right? It is a scenario of -12, -7% of all container traffic due to COVID, but also due to trade tensions. And I wonder what digitization could bring. Could it bring a different business model that you get maybe revenues from? You know, how can innovation really help to sustain this business climate?
Yeah, Duna, that's an excellent question, and it's one I'm faced with nearly every day. We know that the cargo owner, the shipping line, has choice today in which port they want to go to. And Antonio can tell very well, as I've stated, that over time, our friends on the East and Gulf Coast, in British Columbia, Canada, on the West Coast of Mexico, have all hired great people. They've made tremendous investment, and they've aligned themselves politically to drive great public policy. Our job is to make this port as attractive as possible for the logistics decision maker. And we think one part of that formula is through information technology and digitization. If it's easier to do business here, we might get that choice made for us. We have an aspiration to drive new revenue through digitization, but the United States, quite honestly, Duna, has been lagging behind other parts of the world in this area. Germany's Ducati system has been in place for more than 30 years today. Other port community systems in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa have been around much longer than the nation's first and only port community system designed here in Los Angeles. So we have some catching up to do in this area. We found a couple of hurdles that we must overcome as well. Some thought early on we were going to package and sell this data without any permission. And I can attest to you, after 5 years of doing this, we have not sold one character of data without anyone's permission. We have never looked into using proprietary information, only that which is generic, so we can have enough data to move cargo faster from point A to point B. Should others want to participate, and a port in the Nordic countries just signed with Wabtec, we will share in that revenue stream. And as co-creator, I think that's a very interesting business model to pursue. But realistically, where we make our money is on the throughput of cargo. If we could move that cargo smoother and earn more confidence, we'll bring more, which will grow our revenue. So it's kind of like sitting at a dashboard with several levers in front of us. There's no one lever that is going to make up for the trade policy that we're witnessing today. No one lever that says digitization will bring us a bright new day. But together, if we pull certain levers, we continue to work with business partners and find ways that make us a better choice. That, I think, is where the secret will lie. But it's a great line of questioning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ok. Ricardo, a última pergunta, por favor.
Question will be to Antonio. It's pretty similar to what Duna asked to Jean, but it's related not only digitization, but also in terms of being a logistic provider. More and more, the terminals are trying to offer logistic service to the customers, right? Not only vessel operation anymore. For instance, Maersk, they promised to integrate supply chain service providers by celebrating a long-term cooperation with one of the leaders in the agrochemical industry, which is Syngenta, right? In the end of last year. So we can see change in traditional service of the sector. Some innovation solutions to respond in 2 points. The first point, current needs of customers claiming for providers that can offer state-of-art service and customize the supply chain solution. And second, the rise of digital commerce, the e-commerce, which has been increased, of course, with the COVID situation, by serving customers using a vessel as an option of air freight, right? In Brazil, the port-to-door or door-to-door terminal service are being enhanced, but we're still missing some investments in technology to promote significant increment in this integrated solution to the customer. The question is, in what stage are you or terminals located in your port in terms of becoming an integrated logistic provider? And if they are doing this, in actually, what are the main challenges in this subject, Antonio?
Yeah, well, great question again. And also in terms of the Port of Virginia, there is no plan in terms of the logistic agency. We handle cargo. The core business is handle cargo as fast as we can, and so as less truck turn times as we possible. And so we are productive in handling cargo, receiving and moving out the gate. But also we are very fortunate because around the port we have a lot of 3PLs, logistic providers that support our shipments. And so, for instance, in Brazil, a lot of cargos, most of the Brazilian cargos go into Virginia, arrives in Virginia and straight into the local warehouse and make strip container and back empty to the port. And then the providers around the port is not belongs to the port, but it's a partner. And so they provide a service. And so, for example, we have also Amazon is coming to Virginia in terms of e-commerce. And so Virginia is a great state for doing business in Virginia. We have a very competitive labor. The state is great to make business. And the port is really competitive. And so we are prepared to grow and to receive more cargo. But no plans in terms of our port structure internally. The port has any kind of 3PL service to supply or to provide, but the core business is handling cargo, moving in and out faster as we can. And also the commodity, for example, e-commerce is booming now. So that's the reason we are expanding, because the e-commerce is bringing more ultra larger container vessels to the port, and we need to prepare to receive these big vessels properly and be productive to unload and load as fast as we can to speed up and leave it to the next destination. And so the core business of 3PL is surround our port, our community, because it's make the jobs. We have more company, Amazon, other company, Brazilian company installing their own house or lease warehouse. That's very common in Virginia. I don't know if I answered your question, but okay. Thank you.
John, please, the last question.
Thank you, Professor Marcos and FGV Transportes. My last question I have for Jean. Do you see any permanent effects of the U.S.-China trade dispute in shifting trade lanes away from an east-west to a north-south axis? I say that in Brazil, 2004, 2005, there was a dramatic shift in cargo in certain sectors like furniture and ceramic tiles to Asia. And now we have a perfect storm of an exchange rate that is extremely favorable for Brazilian exports. And Brazil has made in the last decade strong competitiveness gains in productivity. You mentioned that furniture from Brazil is one of the leading imports. Do you see a shift where Brazil can take advantage, an opportunity for Brazilian exports to come into the Port of Los Angeles?
Short answer is yes, and for a couple of reasons. Timing, like you say, John, has never been better. With the entrepreneurial support of the manufacturing community in Brazil, I think that the chance is right now to make that change. Nearshoring and reshoring has been in very popular conversation within the supply chain community since these new policies and ways of thinking in Washington, D.C. began to take effect. Second, with the opening of the third lock of the Panama Canal, the ability to make it, whether it's Santos, Itajaí, or other of the great Brazilian ports, to come around with larger ships, lower cost structures, and better speed, the trade accuracy can become improved now as well compared to when we used to trade some of these commodities. And then I think thirdly, the initiation of rejoining our communities together in trade and digital discussions can also accentuate the positive of this as well. So let's go and try this.
Okay. No doubt we would need 2 more hours to exhaust this subject. Okay, but thank you for presence, our guests, Mr. Soroka, Antônio Carlos Amado, Duna Uribe, Ricardo Arten, de novo agradeço a presença. Prazer, John Coutinho, em nome da Fundação Getúlio Vargas, FGV In Company, FGV Transportes, Consulado Geral dos Estados Unidos, Amcham e Abdib. Agradeço ao público presente e vejo vocês num próximo webinário. Obrigado de novo, todo mundo.
Obrigada, boa noite.
Bye, Julie. Bye.
Um abraço a todos. Boa noite.
Nice to meet you, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.